Yesterday, we had a similar training for teachers of grade 1, 2, and 3. And today marks the end of the teacher training sessions. And this meeting specifically is targeting teachers of grade 3, grade 4, and grade 5, and any other person that may want to know more about CBC. The focus for the training at this particular time or for the day is to have a relook at some of the pertinent issues that has always been raised, the implementation of CBC. We are all aware that CBC, since its inception around 4 or 5 years ago, has brought a lot of heat, a lot of misunderstanding, partly a lot of bit of confusion. Reasons are obvious, some of which are that the teachers that are expected to implement CBC, which is a new curriculum in the classroom, of them never went through the CBC system of education. A good number of us went through 844, maybe a few others went through the former system that was there before 844. So that therefore means understanding CBC and implementing CBC must pose a bit of some challenges, because it runs away from the way of doing business as the 844 way or the other system way, and to adopt entirely a new approach. This new approach has come with a lot of challenges here and there, and it is for such challenges that there have been a lot of interventions, a lot of efforts being done by both the government and the non-governmental organizations to ensure that everybody understands what CBC is all about, and the implementation of CBC is done with a lot of ease. Just the other day, we heard of parents complaining that CBC is a very expensive curriculum. It may be partly true, partly it's because of some of us as teachers have not really understood how parents need to be engaged when it comes to parental engagement on the implementation of CBC. So such are part of the issues that will be discussed by our lead facilitator of the day, so that he'll shed some light on to what extent should we involve parents. Because we've seen in social media and in other media around us of so many parents being told to buy some items, some of which to them looks irrelevant, some to them look very expensive. So it has brought a lot of issues and a lot of debate. And because the system is already rolled out, and we as teachers are the implementers, we can't run away from the reality. The only noble thing that we now have to do is to really understand how the many things that people are saying outside there, what is the truth, and how should we now take the truth and implement the truth as expected by the government and by the designers of this particular curriculum. There's also been issues of assessments. There's been a confusion whether to continue with the issues of the normal assessments that we've been doing in 844, but CBC has come up with the two forms of assessments in the name of formative assessments and summative assessments. This to date has not been very clear to many of our teachers. It is sad to say so, but that is the truth on the ground. Some teachers still do not know exactly at what point should you assess a student when you say that this particular student is exceeding expectations or is approaching expectations. Exactly what does that one translate to when it comes to performing a particular task? So because of such being a part of the gray areas in CBC, KPSA felt it wise that we should organize for a forum whereby as teachers, we get it right from the horse's mouth, them that have taken more time to look at the CBC as a curriculum, have been involved at certain stages where we may not have been there, so that they shed more light when it comes to issues of CBC and the implementation per se. Now, in addition to the challenges of examinations and the challenges of the issues that I've raised, there is also the issue of the resource materials. Up to date, there are some schools that still complain that we don't have sufficient books or sufficient resource materials, and they don't know how to get them or where to get them. It is very unfortunate that we are implementing CBC. Some of our schools don't even have the curriculum designs that should be used as a guide to guide the teachers on how to implement the CBC. So thank God for Moran Publishers. They are here. They're going to guide us on how we can get some of these resource materials that can be used as references towards the implementation of the CBC. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is for such reasons that KPSA, through the wisdom of our leaders, they felt that we need to organize for a training session like this, whereby we get the teachers together and then they are taken through a few of the issues that have been considered to be very clear, so that as we get along, we get it right and we run with it. Because in the private sector, we believe in perfection. We believe in doing it right and doing the expected thing, so that at the end of the day, we are seen always to be at the top. Now, as we'll be progressing with the session of the day, if you look at the lower part of the device that you're using, there are certain icons. You've joined this meeting through what is called a Zoom webinar. A Zoom webinar does not allow you directly to talk to us, but you can only listen to us. But that does not mean that we have completely locked you out. If you click down there, you'll see an icon indicated chat. You can share your suggestions there and add questions. You can raise up questions at the chat column, or any area that is not clear in the course of the presentation. You can just indicate there, then we'll read it and respond to it in the course of the presentation. At the same time, there's an icon for Q&A. You can also raise questions at that particular point. Then after the facilitator will have taken time to take us through the session, we will have a chance for a plenary session. During the plenary session, if you want to directly talk to us, you click onto the icon that is indicated raise hand. When you click onto it, we will know that you have an issue or you have a question that you want to raise. So I will allow you from this end to speak. So you'll only unmute, and then you will talk from the other end. So I will adhere to these guidelines. I'm already seeing some people raising up their hands even before we begin the presentations. I'll request them to lower their hands. For now, you will only raise up your hand during the time for the plenary session. So kindly lower your hand for now, so that we'll allow you to raise up your hand at the time of the plenary session, so that we will also allow you to speak at that time. At the moment, even if you raise up your hand and the presenter of the day has not even presented what he has, I'm really wondering what you are up to. That aside, we wish to say that this is a learning forum for all of us, and KPSA will be doing such kind of forum over and over. So kindly know that this is not the only training that we have. KPSA will be organizing for such kind of a forum every time and again. Now, as we As we go to the next session, I'm just about to bring in the next speaker. We have to know that KPSA normally offers examinations, and the examinations that KPSA offers, they are always in midterm. We give midterm examinations and end-term examinations. Every term there are 2 examinations, with the exemption of term 2. Like now we are in term 2. In term 2 of every year, we normally give 3 examinations. Midterm exams, then challenge exams. Challenge exams is only for grades class 6, 7, and 8. Then at the end of the term, we also issue end-term examinations. Now, it is at this point that I have to indicate that KPSA is running away from the traditional way of administration of examinations, whereby most exam bodies tell you, send us your orders and the payments. Then you send to them the orders and the payments, then they supply you. The next time they talk to you, they'll tell you that our series 2 is out. So again, send us your orders and payments, then we supply you with the series 2. After you've done the series 2, then I'll again tell you, we have the series 3 of our exams. Kindly send your orders and payments. But from the KPSA side, we are saying that going forward, in addition to supplying your school with the examinations, we will be doing analysis for the same examination. So after the exams have been done, the schools are requested to send back their results to us. Then we do the analysis. The analysis is meant to compare the performances of your students and the students of other schools. We don't rank the schools per se. In fact, in our analysis, for those who have always accessed the analysis sheets that we normally give out, we don't indicate the school name, but the school will know their mean based on what they sent to us, because we don't interfere with the mean that you had sent to us. But it will give you a comparison, a comparative kind of a way of you comparing how your students are performing hand in hand with the students of other schools. Now, after the analysis, we take keen interest on topics that were not well done by students. That is, areas that we feel were not well performed by most students. And that is what will be informing the kind of training that we have with the teachers. So this particular training of this day has been informed by the weaknesses that we noted in the exam that was done end of term 1. We identified the mistakes, we identified the areas that were not well covered by students, and we also did the analysis for end of term 1, and that is why we decided now to have a training session like this. And in the course of the presentation, I believe the key facilitator of the day will take us through giving a few examples of the questions that were done in the past exam, also to highlight on how such topics can be approached. So, ladies and gentlemen, at that juncture, allow me now to welcome Mr. Geoffrey Lijodi, who will in turn welcome the key facilitator of the day, Mr. Joseph Ndirangu. So, karibu sana, Mr. Lijodi, kindly to the stage. Welcome.
Thank you, George. Thank you for the introduction. I believe I'm clear.
Yes, you are. You are very clear.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for the opportunity. Moran Publishers, we are partners with the private schools, and we are proud to be associated with all the private schools in the Republic. We've had very good sessions from Monday, and today we are very fortunate to have Joseph Ndirangu, who is a teacher of English. We picked on Joseph Ndirangu because 99.9% of teaching is done in English. So you find most of our learners, they fail to comprehend and to understand questions, and that's where we have the biggest challenge in the teaching and the learning. Therefore, we want to give it a monopoly today so that we can understand how to teach, so that our learners can understand how to interpret the questions, how to present themselves, so that even for us teachers, we can be equipped with we can apply through teaching, because when you teach the way it is required in English, it is applied also in other learning areas. So therefore, we would wish to have a lot of concentration and attention from our teachers. And as Mr. Joseph Ndirangu will be sharing with us the skills, he has over 25 years in teaching English. I believe we are going to be better off equipped to handle our learners in the right way, so that they can be able to have that positive attitudes in the other learning areas. With that introduction, I want to welcome Mr. Joseph Ndirangu to take us through the presentation for the day. We understand that we are transiting from grade 1, 2, 3, where we had very few learning areas. And now in grade 4 and 5, we have 11, 12 learning areas. It is a very wide scope that we cannot cover in 2 hours, but I'm sure Mr. Ndirangu is prepared to take us through how we can effectively manage our teaching in English, and how we can apply it in other areas effectively, so that our learners can have that understanding. Thank you very much, Joseph Ndirangu. Please feel welcome.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you. So I'm honored to be with you this afternoon. And from the introduction from Mr. Okumu, it seems there is a lot on the ground that needs to be looked at. I don't know when the CSOs, curriculum support officers, train down there at the zonals, whether private schools also attend. I want to believe that they also attend. And I have seen a lot of attempts down there at demystifying CBC, or the curriculum-based, the competency-based approach to teaching of all the learning areas. And I want to believe what KPSA is doing.
Joseph, your internet is not stable, Joseph.
Hello? My internet is poor?
Your internet is not stable.
Okay.
Yes, you're breaking.
I'm breaking. George, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but
I can hear you now, but you're breaking.
So we are saying like you stabilize your internet. We can hear you, but the internet is not stable where you are. Maybe you can look for an alternative, so that you know you are the lead facilitator. So you need to be the key person. You look for alternative. If this one is not working, you change to another one, because you are breaking. So we are not clearly getting you as you are speaking.
Okay.
But you can go ahead.
Okay, I'll see what can be done then. So I was making my introductory remarks, and I was saying that a lot has been done there. I mean, done around, and I want to believe that this is implementing majority of them know. And when I go through the content that has been taught so far at the county level down there, it's not something that we can really cover in 2 hours, even if it's not possible, because that's it's content that is normally covered in a week. Then another week is arranged for another section. So it's quite a lot. Like, you know, when I look at what's supposed to what I would go through under assessment, it is a whopping 74 slides on assessment alone. We may not be able to cover this just in 2 hours. I mean, throughout everything that we would need to know. But then as we continue, I would like to encourage the teachers to use the charts, because I think the charts will direct me a lot when I know the needs they have on the ground and the worrying part. I know what I have seen on social media in the past few weeks about parents and other people who've been making fun of CBC. They have actually been making fun of CBC by creating content that is available in any of the books from any publisher in this country, and really making a parody of what we are doing. We as teachers, authors, publishers, and school owners, and it is something that I abhor. And I won't believe, yeah, somebody is saying still they cannot get me clearly.
You are now clear. You are now clear, Mr. Ndemu. I also wish to inform our participants that we are also live on YouTube, and they can follow us on YouTube as well. But you are clear now, Mr. Ndemu. Yes.
And it is also possible for our participants to have an unstable network and believe it's me who has an issue. It's also possible. So this afternoon, Cynthia, you hear them clearly? I think they can hear me. I'm okay. So I'm basically a teacher of English. I've had several books in English, and when Mr. Jody talked to me about coming this afternoon, I prepared something in English. And I wanted to go through reading skills, because reading skills are central to everything. They are central to everything. And there's something he mentioned that came up from yesterday's presentation. There was an issue about children who are transiting from ECD to class 1, and some come and still cannot read. And I thought I would start at that point. And then when I'm through with that point, I'll invite you to bring in issues that you want clarified. And then I'll go through those issues one by one. I hope in the background, Rijodi will be taking notes of what you would want to know from me. So right away, I want to share my screen. So I want to believe you can see my screen. And when I was preparing this talk, I was thinking along the issues and challenges that teachers are facing, and the ideas that will help us teach using the CBA approach. And I want to go down to ECD, just down there, PP1 and PP2, and try to help that teacher who had issues with the kids who are transiting with very poor reading skills. And I want to take them back to the phonics, because this is the basis, it is the basic, it's the foundation of reading skills at any level. You all know that we transited from where we were teaching letters to teaching using sounds. We know we have
Joseph,
26 letters.
We are losing you, Joseph.
Wow. This has not happened before. This is what I used to do. What's the problem?
Maybe you can increase the volume of your device, the volume a little bit. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Dirango, we can't hear you. Are you talking?
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to find out what is happening.
He was talking, but there was a bit of some hiccups in the internet, but he's working on it.
Or maybe you can change the internet because it seems to be.
And I can hear you so I can hear you clearly. How come you can't hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now.
Because if I can hear you, if I can hear you, you should be able to hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. I think we are good now.
Communication is both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is okay now.
If I can hear you, you should be able to hear me.
Okay.
Okay. Is my screen still visible?
Yes, yes, it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the slides are okay.
So
yeah, it's okay now.
Okay. I was talking about the phonics, and right from down there, when kids are taught to mouth the sounds of the letters, this is where the foundation is formed. I'm talking about reading because our learners will not understand what you're teaching in other learning areas if their reading skills are not good. We have 26 letters in our alphabet, but from those 26 letters, we have 44 sounds. And that means, apart from the basic 26 letters we have sounds that are formed from either combination of 2 letters in what we call digraphs, or 3 letters in what we call trigraphs. We also have some letters having more than one sound. I could, for instance, highlight I. No, yeah, letter I, which can be I, when it can also be E, or letter E, which can be E and can be A, and the like. And that is where we end up having 44 sounds. So right at the beginning, the learners ought to have internalized the correct pronunciation of all these 44 phonemes, all of them. And whoever is teaching those learners down there ought to ensure that the sounds that are related, the letters that produce related sounds, are taught at the same time. If you think of a sound such as k, from letter K, it can also be formed by CH. It can also be formed by CK. So that learners will not learn that k come from only one letter, and when they encounter the same sound where it's supposed to be made by other letters, then they get stuck. So the proficiency of the learners at that basic level to produce all those sounds is very, very important. But we all know these sounds are not taught overnight. They are taught gradually. And as they are taught gradually, then we are not going to teach them to blend particular sounds to form words if those sounds have not been taught. So when we provide the ideas and activities for blending sounds, then they'll be blending the sounds we have taught so that reading is learned gradually. It is possible to teach a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old to read and read proficiently. It is possible, as long as those basic sounds are mastered as early as possible. When blending, remember to teach individual sounds and then show how those individual sounds combine or blend to form a word. You can be creative. You can use flashcards, or you can use cards that you cut out, and then they'll have all the sounds. And then
we've lost you, Mr. Ndirangu.
they can also buy other words. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we had lost you again. We had lost you like 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
Yes.
But now we can hear you.
Then my internet is very unstable today.
Yeah.
Okay, I was talking about blending, and I was saying learners only blend what they have been taught. So that idea of teaching gradually is very, very important. Now, remember that when students begin to read and there are words that they come across and they can't read, sometimes you allow them to move on. I will stress that more when I talk about fluency. Because if you have attended any of my talk before, I have mentioned that fluency is more important than even accuracy. So when they encounter words and you show them to read them and they're still not able to read them, you can move on to the next word so that you encourage fluency, not necessarily accuracy. Now, one thing that is very important as far as teachers are concerned is that we need to have very good pronunciation. And precision here cannot be compromised. We therefore have to learn how to pronounce words and pronounce all the letters, all the sounds correctly. You are reminded that when you are pronouncing a phonic, then you ensure that you make it short. We don't expect to hear or mu. Let it be short. It is it is k, it is t. Don't say ta. Because the learners will learn from you. So if I used to say mu instead of then, or ma instead of then they will have a problem. They are not going to learn it well, because we are supposed to be models of we are supposed to be to model the correct way of pronunciation as we read, because we want them to know very early that how to read properly. We need to encourage fluency. Fluency. What is reading fluency? What is reading fluency? Because if your learners are reading a science book, we want them to be fluent. They are reading. There is somebody.
Polycarp, you can mute your microphone.
There is somebody who has unmuted their mic. That is not from my back.
You can proceed.
So fluency is not just reading quickly. No. It's the ability to read efficiently, accurately, with meaningful expression. You know, if you look at what's covered in grade 4 and 5, as far as reading is concerned, there is something the curriculum design is referring to as reading with expression. And reading with expression is what is explained down there. We are talking about bringing in tone, bringing in voice projection, bringing in pitch, so that the learner does not only bring in the words, we only get to feel, or they get to communicate what they feel. Fluency will incorporate phrasing, accuracy, prosody, and prosody is what we are referring to as expression, the music of the words, because English words are not read in a flat voice the way a computer or the way a robot would talk to you. We have the highs and we have the lows and we have the flats. It also incorporates meaning, because we don't expect somebody to read things that they don't understand. If learners are reading and they don't understand, as you will see later, they are not reading. Not word calling, not reading. Learners need to be able to meaningful phrases and pay attention to punctuation while reading. This is because punctuation influences. It influences what we say and how we say it. If we are not to put words into meaningful phrases, then we will not be able to make meaning from what we are reading. This refers to the context, because whatever we read is only meaningful in relation to the environment, the word environment, in relation to what else is contained in that particular sentence, in that particular paragraph, in that context that we are reading. Then we ought to teach our learners to read in such a way that they sound similar, or their voices sound similar to how we talk. I have encountered learners in a class where they read in a sing-song voice. I came here this morning when the sun, you know, it's a sing-song voice, not natural. And this is where reading with expression comes in. And this should begin as early as possible. If learners are reading with a voice that does not sound natural, then it is important that you correct that as early as possible. I believe the majority of teachers here are between grade 3 and grade 4 and grade 5. At this level, it's very possible. So that when learners are reading a question that begins with a WH element, we can tell that that is a question. If they are reading a sentence that is only expressing a fact, like it is cold now or it is raining now, then the intonation of that line. So this is important. Tone, pitch, and volume. Where learners are supposed to shout where they are reading, then they shout. Where they are supposed to read in a soft voice, they read in a soft voice. Where they are supposed to read in a gruff voice, they read in a gruff voice. Where they are supposed to express doubt, we can hear it, even in their voices that they're expressing doubt. If they are expressing urgency, we can hear the urgency in their voices. If they are expressing some confusion, we can hear it in their voices. And that is why reading becomes all round. It is not just a matter of sounding the letters and the words and, you know, from a page or whatever is written on a page. It goes beyond that, because you want to communicate meaning and you want to communicate the feelings and the emotions that are contained in words on a particular page, in a particular text that learners are reading or that we are reading. So let us teach this as early as possible. When you go through a lesson on listening, that intonation is not only contained, it's also so that where saying intonation, when they are expressing surprise, we want to hear that rising intonation. When they are asking a question that expects yes or no, we want to hear that rising intonation. What about pace? The pace is the speed. How do they read? Sometimes you give a learner to read a particular piece of text and they read it either too slowly, hesitatingly, or too fast for those who are listening to comprehend what they're saying. Pace is important, and pace is actually controlled by our breathing, because all sounds that we produce are affected or are controlled by the flow of air from our lungs, and that is what makes our voices. So that pace, a learner must be taught to read and sound natural so that they don't run out of breath in the middle of a sentence. Pitch is high and low. We keep on going high, we keep on going low. The volume, the loudness, can we be heard? Voice projection. Are there learners who read when they're seated at the back of the class? The learners seated in front of the class cannot hear what they're reading. Let us teach them to read appropriately. Then learners must think about what they are reading to make sure it makes sense. They must think about it because this is not rote learning. When we talk about competency-based approach to teaching, we moved away from rote learning. So whatever we are doing must be sensible. In fact, at the end of every lesson, at the end of every strand that you are teaching, if learners cannot put into practice what is being taught in their own way, not only in class, but also outside class, then you will not have achieved the basic, the basic objectives of the CBC. So let them think about what they are reading to make sure it makes sense. And in thinking about what they are reading, then it also helps them to anticipate what will come after the sentence they are reading. There are several strategies that we can use to help our learners be able to read fluently. And what are these strategies? One is around. We should strive to read aloud to our students every single day, because this should provide students with a model of how fluent reader sounds. How does a fluent reader sound? They want to know. They will learn it from us teachers. We can even have audiobooks. I know I'm talking to private schools and they have the resources. You can even have a center on your school website where there are listening activities, where there are stories that they can listen to. And in this way, they'll be interacting with model fluent reading. But I want to say that this must never take up the place of the teacher. They must never replace the teacher. The teacher must continue reading aloud. And once more, as we said, you are the model and you're supposed to remain the model you are. We want learners to think aloud. As they read aloud, We want to show them how to pause appropriately for punctuation. Every time we pause where there is a punctuation, we are able to take breath. We are able to catch our breath. And in so doing, we are able to maintain the strength to when they encounter punctuation marks. Actually, punctuation marks came up as to represent just breath pauses. We also want to show them how to use expression to convey how a character is feeling, as I earlier. Use leadership because we want to communicate the feelings. They have to explicitly state their thoughts because we want them to internalize these strategies while they read. So what you do when you read a short phrase or a sentence and you model fluent reading, then you ask your learners to mimic. They mimic what you are doing, they mimic how you are pacing your reading. So when they mimic, you correct where they make errors. But you always wait for a learner to finish what they were mimicking before you correct. Because when you correct too much, then it becomes a problem. The learners will not have got or achieved what you are trying to teach. So when they mimic what you are saying, you let them finish, then you correct the errors later. We can also use choral reading. And in choral reading, we all read together. You and the learner, you read together. And this also provides a model of fluent reading because it will support them in their fluency development. I'm not going to encourage this so much if you have a very big class, because it becomes noisy and you're likely to interfere with the other lessons that are going on in the neighboring classrooms. Then repeated reading. Repeated reading. You can have the learners reread even what they have read. And this begins even early. When the learners have learned phonics and they have learned to pronounce a word such as mat, cat, pat, they can read it over and over again before you move on to the next set of words. So we have to encourage them to read and reread, right from down there. Because in doing so, you give them opportunities to practice. They are practicing fluent reading and they won't forget it. We know what happens with repetition. Repetition is for emphasis. So when they do and redo, then at that particular point, they are practicing and they will not forget because of that emphasis. I always explain to the students that the first reading is to help them figure out any hard words. Are there words that they are not at home with? They figure out what the story is about. Then the second, rather than any other additional reading, give them an opportunity to improve on their fluency. So let them read and read. Even in class, don't have a passage just read once. They could even read it first silently, then they read it aloud as a class, then they read it aloud as individuals that we are going to point or to appoint in that class. And during this multiple reading, then let us remind our learners to practice reading in a way that will sound like the way we talk. That is very important. I have mentioned that before. The reading must sound in the same way we sound when we talk. And there's something we call readers' theater. Readers' theater. And readers' theater is very, very interesting in a class. And that means you can have a theater script. You can also have a poem that may have learners engaging in a sort of dialogue, like what we call gojera in Kiswahili. This can work for us in English, so that one reader is saying this and the other one is saying this, the other one is, and we end up having some sort of a dialogue. So reading theater is important because it will help them practice fluency in a very engaging way and in an authentic manner. If we make use of readers' theater, then we are going to effectively help our learners achieve fluency in reading. In grade 5, it's there, and you also encounter it in grade 6. You encounter it in grade 6. I'm not sure whether you have seen the CDs for grade 6, but it's there too in grade 6. But it is also possible to have it at all levels. As teachers of English, we are encouraged to be innovative, and we can come up with our own ways of making reading interesting. In this regard, I want to add something else. If you are having a passage read in your class, and in that passage, there is a dialogue. In that passage, there is a dialogue. I'm going to pick a part here from grade 5, Skill English. Skill in English. I'm sure you have it at school, the Moran Skills in English. And on page 36, 37, this will be chapter 6. Chapter 6, that is theme 3. There is a passage called Tortoise Secret. And in that passage, there is an exchange. There is an exchange between Toti and the mother. And the words are presented nicely the way we do in direct speech in a conversation. Instead of having one learner read through the exchange, you could appoint 2 learners, one to take up the role of Toti and another one to take up the role of her mother. You may have asked them before the lesson to go through the ones so that when the lesson comes, they will be able to engage in that conversation naturally. This is also a kind of a reading theater. And almost every other theme will have a reading passage that will have a dialogue. So those learners that you have appointed to read through such kind of a dialogue will be you will have talked to them, you will have encouraged them to read, to sound like they are taking part in a conversation. Then you'll have appointed one learner to read the part where narration is taking place. This makes the reading of a passage very interesting. It is rather boring when one learner goes through the exchanges of 2 or 3 characters in a story, and it's because it's not possible for them to assume the different voices realistically. So appoint more than one learner, look at, see how many are taking part in the conversation, you can have those roles and they do so in that class. This will also be a kind of a reading theater, and it is very, very interesting. It's possible in grade 4, it's possible in grade 5. Try it. It's going to work wonders in your reading classes. It makes it very, very interesting. I have done it before, and I know it works wonders. Once again, you'll find it in skills in English, learners book 4, 5, and 6. Once again, you can make your own reading theater script. Try to make your own. Try to make your own. And if you are making your own, ensure they are to the level of the learner. Ensure that the content or the theme or the issue that will be contained in that reading theater script is still at the level of the learner. It actually appeals to their experiences, to their knowledge, to the environment in which they are used to. You can also have them record their own reading. I don't know whether you, as a teacher, has ever listened to yourself. Have you ever recorded your own lesson and listened to yourself? Have you ever recorded your own reading and listened to yourself? It is something that actually brings in new things that you never thought about. I didn't know how I speak until I listened to myself teach from a recording. So learners, then, if they are given that opportunity to record themselves, to record their voices as they read, then you'll give them an opportunity for self-assessment. They need to hear themselves read. They can record themselves. They can use voice recorders on a laptop like this one I'm using, on a tablet, on the smartphones, and any other digital voice recorder that we could have. Then they can play back and listen to their voices, and then they'll be able to reflect on their fluency. You can do this for them first so that they are able to do it on their own. When we talk about reflecting on reading, then you should show them, what is this? What do you want them to listen to so that they are able to reflect on their fluency, their pronunciation, their pace, their expression. That is what we call prosody, tone, intonation, pitch, volume. Is someone audible? Are they reading in the correct pace? That is the correct speed. Is their pronunciation appropriate? Are they able to read with expression? Are they able to communicate the emotions of the content of the text? There's also what we call authentic reading. authentic reading. Learners will need time to read, and read some more. The only way to get better at anything is having a lot of practice. That means they need to have reading material at school, they need to have reading materials at home, where the parents are going to help us ensure that reading is done, so that they don't just read what is in our course books, but they are also reading what is contained in the children's pages of a newspaper, the children's pages of a particular magazine, what is contained in class readers in Moran and other places, so that we give them an opportunity to read authentically. Because we'll have gone beyond the classroom. So let us give them these opportunities. Do we have libraries in our schools? If we have libraries, do we have reading lessons or a reading program in our schools? If we don't have, then can we introduce reading programs so that learners become fluent at reading? There's something I could propose or suggest, especially for this, for grade 4 and 5, if parents would provide a particular storybook. And this is now for authentic reading. Now we have gone beyond what we are reading in the classroom. We want them to read more and more. And that means we have looked at a particular level of class readers and suggested several titles, so that we'll have learners bring in titles that are different. Because this is not now class reading. They will not be reading all of us together the same text. So when we bring in several class readers, then learners are able to exchange with your help, of course, because we don't want them to lose them or to deface them or to damage them in the process of their reading, since they are still in their formative years. When we do this, we'll have several titles in class, and as they exchange, then it means learners will have access to more reading material. This is better than when we have only one title that is being read by everybody. And this obviously gives them an opportunity to read authentically, because they are reading from several authors. They are reading even from several publishing houses. And by doing so, then we are going to enrich their reading experience. Once you enrich the reading experience of the learner, you will know what happens. They build their vocabulary. Even their level of grammar skills become diversified, because they encounter so many, the rules of grammar that they have learned in class in use in that material that they are reading. So let us give our learners a lot of opportunities to read as we implement this strategy of authentic reading. Now, I want us to reflect on the reading strategies that we use in our classes. Which strategies are you already using in your classes? Are there any additional strategies you use, that which we have not mentioned here? Can you share this in the chats? Geoffrey, if you can hear me, please look at the chats for me. I'm waiting for your responses on the other reading strategies that you use in your class. Let us share. Seems Geoffrey is not online, but I'm taking notes. I can see what you are bringing on board. I can see a good number of you are already using reading aloud, repeated reading. There's somebody who has mentioned the competitive reading. I want to believe that in that learners are competing. And remember, in CBC, we are trying to get rid of the element of competition. We may not have been able to stamp it out. Somebody has mentioned the silent reading. Problem with silent reading at this level is that you may not be able to gauge their fluency if they are just reading silently. There is turn taking, reading in turns. And reading in turns can mean one will read one paragraph, the other one read another paragraph, but you can still have one paragraph read by more than one person because you want to hear the same words being read by a different person. Reading aloud is in use in the majority of you. Repeated reading, very important. It is in repeating that we become better. Reading aloud, repeated reading, and reading in turns. Individual reading, that's individual. Now, if you have a big class, and I know a good number of you may be having big classes, I don't know whether you can tell us how you ensure that everyone reads and everyone is heard. Do you keep a reading rota so that you know we read up to learner so and so? How do you ensure that everybody reads? If you have a large class. Reading aloud, I think we are just repeating the same things now. But there is something someone has mentioned. Something someone has mentioned. Something to do with the reading clubs. I don't know how possible it is to have reading clubs at that level, at grade 3, 4, and 5. But it is still a good idea because reading clubs really encourages the learners to be read and to be on top of things. Because in a club, you have to do what the other doing. Now, there's a question somebody has asked here that doesn't have to do necessarily with reading, and somebody is asking whether I will cover other reading areas in grade 4 or is it only English? Okay, I will give you some time to ask questions, and from those ones is when I'll be able to know whether I can. I will handle the concerns as they come. The idea of going through reading is because reading cuts across everything that we teach, all the learning areas that we have in our schools. There's a question someone has asked here, Donald Wino, which is the best way of teaching reading? Is it preferable to start with the vocabulary part, that is the meaning of new words from the passage, or we read first and deduce meaning from the text? Now, I want to give you a leeway, because what I'll do, I can try either way and see what works for me. I'll try either way and see what works for me. But if you go to text and you can see there are words here that will give your learners difficulty as they read, then you can point them out during pre-reading. You can point out those words during pre-reading. But then this must not be used to get rid of the lesson on vocabulary. It should only be a way of facilitating reading. The best way of teaching reading, is it preferable to start with vocabulary? I want you to look at what works for you at your level. Look at what works for you at your level. Remember, when we talk about deducing meaning from text, learners must be taught how to deduce meaning from the text by looking around for clues in the sentences that surround that word, and if they can't get the clues from that, then they read the whole paragraph. They must be taught how to get meaning from context. And obviously, they will only be able to do that after they have read. So if they are going to deduce meaning, then they'll have to read, from the context, then they'll have to read the text first. But as I have said, if there are words that are going to give them issues when they are reading, it's going to make them stumble, then you can have those words pointed out at the beginning of the reading, and especially the pronunciation bit, so that as they read, they do so fluently. Let me see whether there is something else I need to respond to immediately. As I said, it is so hard to gauge fluency if your learners are reading silently. It is so hard to gauge the fluency. So I think fluency should be for advanced readers. I don't know whether you can have, at this level, at grade 3, you will have issues because you will not be able to gauge whether they are reading fluently or not. So when they start reading silently, that could be grade 5, even grade 4. When they are reading silently, ensure you stamp out the initial problems or the initial shortcomings that you will realize, because they will be there. Others will be mouthing the words, you can see their lips moving. Others will be whispering. Others will be reading with a finger. Reading with a finger is allowed in lower levels. It's still allowed. But when they go higher, you will discourage them from reading by pointing the words using a finger, you discourage them and the like. But as we know, reading fluency will keep improving with time. Those who are reading hesitatingly, help them. Remember, the problem may be at the foundation. They had issues with phonics. Because even now, when you have grown-ups who cannot read fluently, the problem was the basics. And therefore, you've got to go through you've got to go through what they are reading and find out where they are having problems, because you'll be able to point out the letter sounds that they did not internalize well, that they did not understand, that they cannot produce. Then at that particular point, you will help them. Somebody is asking whether the Taxonomy method of teaching English is still applicable in grade 4 and 5. It will help you a lot, especially with the poor readers. Because how do you help those ones who still have issues in reading? How do you help them? Sometimes you are forced to go back to what was supposed to help grade 1, 2, and 3. You'll be forced to. You'll find yourself in a class that has issues that were not tackled in the lower grades. What do you do? So you cannot say that Taxonomy method is not, it will help you, because you will go down there and it will help to increase the speed. So try to use it where you have issues, because I believe still in grade 4 and 5, you have learners that require a lot of support, that will require a lot of practice. Are there any issues? Are there any questions you can raise? There is something I had looked at the English papers that were set for term 1. And I had a few comments to make on them. I want to believe I don't have all the time up to 5. And I still want to give you time to ask general questions on CBC. So allow me to say something about those papers that I looked at, and then I'll give you some time to ask general questions on CBC, so that I will have Geoffrey talk to you. I hope, Geoffrey, you are still online and you can hear what's going on.
I'm following. I'm there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, assessment. At the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned that the subject of assessment is very, very broad. As you know, in CBC, it's very, very broad. And if you have attended a training at a count level, at sub-count level, at zonal level, you must have seen how much is given out, is given out in those workshops. It is too much. But I want to believe you are already at home with the various modes of assessment, whether the journals, written assessment, portfolio. You know them, anecdotal notes. You know them. I know you are already familiar with those manner of assessment, the formative and the summative assessment, using the rubrics and the like. I am sure you have already gone through that. And as I said, we may not have the time to go through all these. But from in my own view, it is important that you familiarize yourself with all these modes of assessment. I could share the training slide from National Examination Council with George later. It has some 74 slides on assessment, and then he can share with you in your individual schools and see what you can get from those slides for use in your schools, because there are examples for each mode of assessment that you can implement in your schools, and from those examples, you can create yours. I'll try to do so after this talk. Now, when I went through the papers, there's something I need to note here. Somebody has asked, I will mention it later. She's raising a very pertinent issue, very, very pertinent issue. Yeah, she's who? Let me see the name. Okay. Okay, when I looked at those papers, there is something that came to mind, and especially the assessing of writing skills. And the questions I saw are just very similar to what we've been doing in the previous system. You write a composition entitled My Birthday. And I thought this is just very, very similar to what we've been doing in the past. First of all, I want to say that if you are assessing, ensure that what you are assessing is contained in what has just been taught. Because I want to believe if this was for term 1, then given that grade 4 and grade 5 have 13 themes, then in term 1, then I would assume in term 1, since it's supposed to be longer, we should be able to cover up to theme 5. So whatever is covered between theme 1 and theme 5, then that is what we could have tested here. And I want to challenge, because we are used so much to story writing, and then you have seen the way functional writing has been brought into this curriculum designs. And when I look at grade 4 and 5, between theme 1 and theme 5, I see the writing of letters, personal letters, that's Frederick letters, and I have also seen the filling out or the filling in of forms, and there is also the writing of personal journals. And you could try this out in your next exam so that there is some functional writing, because it is there in the CD, and let us bring it in, and we bring it in a creative way, in a very creative way. I was thinking of even giving learners, if you're writing a Fred letter, you give them a letter that is already written, that you have read this letter that you have just received, and then you provide a reply, write a reply. And I think that one also will even have tested even their reading skills and comprehension, because they read and to understand that letter and pick the points that they will have to relate to or to refer to as they write a reply. You can bring in filling in of forms to a journal about something that they did over the break. This is, we have no holidays, we only have breaks. The holiday ends before you know that it's the end. So those are my suggestions. You could try doing that. But I want to say that choosing the right one is not easy. That's why identify the deep test format for it. It's always difficult. But each one will have advantages, and it will also have its disadvantages. Some are easy to mark, and others, and those are easy to mark, they are difficult to set. Those are difficult to set, they may be easy to mark. So it's for us, we want to be creative. We want to be creative. Instead of just telling them to write a composition on my birthday. By the way, I would like to move away from the word composition. If you look at what is covered between theme 1 and theme 5 in grade 4 and 5, there is a bit of creative writing, and they are talking about narrative writing. So supposing you tell them to write a story on something that happened during your birthday, during your birthday party. See, you could also give them, you know, some leeway, because there are some learners whose parents do not throw them birthday parties. So will they be writing from experience really? So why not allow them a leeway so that you give them something that all of us are able to write about? Do all of us throw parties in our houses for birthdays for our kids? So as we give that title, or as give the situation on which to write about, let's think of everybody in our classes. That is going to help a lot. There's something I did not see. I expected to see a scoring guide. I needed a scoring guide because a scoring guide would have helped me. Actually, let me call it a marking scheme. It would have helped me assess those papers very easily. But there was no scoring guide, and there was no marking scheme for that matter. And marking a composition is quite difficult. We all know that. We may have a holistic criteria, or we may have a specific rating scale. It depends on what you are looking for. And I would have wanted to see your interpretation of formative assessment at the CBA if you had provided a marking scheme that you are using on these papers. It would have helped me a lot. So I did not know. So for you, for the next time you're writing, ask yourself, what criteria do I need for scoring? What aspects will I be testing here? Is it content? Is it organization? Is it grammar? Is it vocabulary? Is it spelling? Am I giving particular marks for these aspects? What descriptors am I going to give? Am I going to use numbers? Like if somebody is quite original, I give a 3. Not original, I give a 0. So what descriptors am I going? Is it excellent? Is it good? Is it fair? Am I going to use the rubrics that we use in formative assessment? So those descriptors are important because every time you say you set a test, every time you have a kind of an assessment item, it is not complete until there is a marking scheme, until there is a scoring, until you bring in the scoring guide. What criteria will be established to understand what each descriptor represents is very, very important. Is it a general description of writing ability? This is something that has been used for long. This general description of writing ability, that what constitutes an A, what constitutes a B, what constitutes a C, what constitutes a D category. So those are the holistics. Or is it analytic scales which separates the aspects of writing in different units, like grammar, I'll give this, vocabulary, I'll give this, organization, I'll give this. You know, let this be clear. Let this be clear. And once more, I want to say that as we mark those compositions, let us ensure that we give credit. We are marking for what is there, not for what is not there, not what is missing. So that we recognize the strength of our learners, or our testees, our examinees, for that matter. If you are doing this in class during formative assessment and the learner has made a lot of errors in a composition, kindly, you don't have to underline all the errors. It is normally very, very discouraging when a learner gets that script and it is full of red marks. It is very, very discouraging. So sometimes you'll overlook some errors because there is no way you'll be able to correct all the errors if the learner has made them. So if there are so many of them, you see, so you'll highlight some, you correct this time, you'll correct the others in another subsequent writing activity. There's something I want us to reflect about. Does our test come from the content covered? John Jokumu said that some of us do not even have the curriculum designs. I don't know whether I'll be able to put all the curriculum designs I have. I don't know. But if I go through my contents on my laptop, I think I have all of them all the way to 26. I should be having them all 8.6. I'll confirm whether I still have them. And I can share, I can share all of them with George, and then he can share it out to all of you. Because the content of the test comes from the content that is in our CD. The content in our CD is dictated upon or is determined by the learning outcomes for every strand, for every substrand. And those learning outcomes are the ones that we use to write these books. We are not given anything else apart from that CD. And from that CD, from the learning outcomes, we create the learning activities, what the learning experiences as suggested in the CD, and we make them at the level of the learners that you have in your classes. So looking at the CD, and this is term 2, at the end of term 2, how far am I supposed to have covered this CD in the way you broke it down in your schemes of work, so that at the end of this term, what am I supposed to have covered? Then this is where the content, this is where the items of the test will come from. They have to test the core competencies. Ensure they test the core competencies. Ensure that the tests that you include, including the wording, also respects the spirit and letter of the national goals of education as interpreted in the learning outcomes that we have in the curriculum design. It must also be guided by the spirit and the letter of the values that we are supposed to teach in our classes. So that if there is a passage that you give, I read about the passage about throwing away a kid. That is not a value that you're not supposed to teach in our classes. Therefore, such kind of a passage must not appear in our tests. So whatever we are communicating in our test must not be negative whatsoever. So in adding of sentences does contravene basic understanding of values are operated by the curriculum design. I can see the internet connection is a bit unstable. It is recovering. I know you can hear me now. And I was just saying about the national values as interpreted in the curriculum design. We know the values that you're supposed to teach. And then, is there a clear scoring guide? Do we have a marking scheme? Will that marking scheme help us have some constructive feedback? There's that last question I want to refer to, Bloom's taxonomy. This is important in the questions that you set on the reading passage. On the reading passage. You know the Bloom's taxonomy. So let's have questions on recall, have questions on knowledge, have questions on analysis, have questions depending on the level of our learners. Depending on the level of our learners. Have a question on application. Go back to the Bloom's taxonomy, especially the revised edition of Bloom's taxonomy, and see how you can structure the questions on that passage, keeping to the level of the learner, but ensuring you cover various levels of Bloom's taxonomy, depending on the class that you're teaching. This, going through using Bloom's taxonomy helps you in covering various skills so that you don't end up covering only one skill. Probably everything is what happened, who saw this, who did this. Then that you will only be referring to only one aspect of Bloom's taxonomy, and that is something that we are supposed to avoid. At this point, I want to invite questions generally on CBC. Generally on CBC. You are free to write in the chats, please. Write in the chats. I would like to write in the chats on any general questions on CBC, especially in regards to implementation, regarding interpretation of the curriculum designs, regarding the use of materials that you have. As you write, as you type your questions, I want to respond to something Abia Proskovia had raised on reading, and she was saying that competitive reading helps in increasing fluency. And I concur with you. I will only remind you to ensure that where this competitive reading is taking place, ensure that those who are still reading hesitatingly are not made to feel awkward. If you are able to accommodate them and you don't make them feel awkward, then your competitive reading will work and will help you achieve your learning outcomes. But if it makes them feel awkward, then you'll be leaving out a part of your class in the process of your teaching. I can see questions have started flowing in. Somebody is asking that the previous exam covered some parts that were not in the strads. It is not right. It is not right. Whatever we discovered in an exam must be part of the strads that were taught in that specific learning area. So I think whenever the test is prepared, I think I believe there should be what we call quality control mechanism to ensure that what is in the papers is exactly what is in the CD. Somebody's asking whether we should award marks in writing. At the very early levels, you need not award marks. You need to give them a description. You need to help them by correcting their mistakes. The length of the writing. The desired length of the writing is covered in our strands. I mean, in the CD. In the CD. The CD suggests how long the writing should be in a particular class. Those CDs are that's why I'm saying I'm going to share with you the CDs so that you will have all this at your fingertips. Somebody is asking about a school year report on feedback. I am not conversant with that document, school year report on feedback. I'm not conversant with that document. So I won't beat about the bush. Polycarp, are you talking and we can't hear you?
No.
Okay. Somebody's asking the midterm will cover up to what percentage of the CD? I want to believe tests are set depending on how you have schemed. How have you planned your work? Because you know what you are supposed to have covered by midterm, depending on how you have written your schemes of work.
Mr. Dirango, there are people who have raised up their hands. I think I want to allow them to ask you directly.
You can call them one by one.
Let's start with Mr. Eli Oyola. Eli Oyola, you can mute and then you talk. Eli Oyola. You unmute and then you ask your question.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me the other side?
We can hear you.
Yeah, my question. Yes.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm asking about this on the assessment. When we are offering assessment to these learners, there are two types of assessment. First one, we have the summative and the formative. When the NEC will be doing ranking for these learners to the next level, which one will they use, the summative or the formative? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think Mr. Drago, you'll just take the questions, then you'll respond at once. Let me give you the next to ask Mr. There's this teacher from St. James Amawa Junior Academy in Kitui. You can unmute and then you talk. St. James Mawa. You can't get in. Let's hear from Mr. Francis Clinton. Francis Clinton, you unmute. When I call your name, you unmute and you ask your question.
Hello.
Yes, Francis, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My question is that I have a problem with the learner in grade 4.
Anan, we are looking for not only but also. Anan, which is your ear, will tell you the next.
Hello.
Can't hear you.
Hello. Is there another person who is talking?
He has muted. You can proceed.
Okay, so my question was that there is this learner who is able to read and understand, but not reading all the words, can understand English. When it comes to exam, there is a problem of omitting, and interpretation of the question is also a problem sometimes. How can I help such a learner in that case? And then those who are slow at doing their work. That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Francis. Let's go to Mary Awino, unmute and then you speak, Mary.
Hello. My
Hello.
question. Yeah, I'm getting you. My question is,
yes,
during the summative assessment, do learners allowed to copy each other? Then the next question, when marking composition in CBC, do the facilitator said that we are not allowed to underline because so many lines may discourage the learner. So in such a case, how will we identify the problems which learners have in their writings? That is the only question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's go to Madam Damaris Musili. Madam Damaris Musili, you can unmute and then you speak. Damaris. Kama hayuko, we can go to Jackson Nyakundi. Jackson Nyakundi. Mr. Jackson Nyakundi. You unmute and then you talk.
How do you mark?
Use English, we are not hearing that language. What are you asking, Madam Damaris?
How do you mark grade 4 composition?
How to mark grade 4 composition?
Yes.
Do you have any other question, or that is the only question you have?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Nyakundi.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I would like to ask a question.
Oh, yeah?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm asking about the reading part. The reading aloud part that the learners are supposed to be able to do. Now, you find in a class, there are learners who are good in reading, and so they are able to read the words in 1 minute, which we are supposed to see how many words a learner has been able to read in 1 minute. But how do we now differentiate? Because most of them at times they meet expectations. You find in a score sheet so many learners who are able to meet expectations. So how do you rate these learners? Because it's not advisable that we have all meeting expectation from the top to the bottom. At least we understand that our learners have varied abilities. But when it comes to such a case, how do you differentiate between the scores that they have scored?
Thank you. Let's hear from Madam Lucy Kemunto. Lucy Kemunto, please. Madam Lucy Kemunto, you unmute and then you ask your question. Kama patikani, let's go to Mr. Alex Mbaluka. Alex Mbaluka, I can see you've raised your hand. You unmute and then you speak. Mr. Alex. No, if not ready, let's go to Mr. David Obulutsa. Bwana David Obulutsa. You unmute and then you talk.
Hello.
Yes.
My concern was about grade 4 and grade 5 assessment from KPSA. I think that the assessment was not covering term 1 work. It was covering even term 2 work, whereby some of our learners were embarrassed. So kindly next time when you be setting the assessment, consider even the pace of the learners. Others are unable even to cover more work in the expected time. So kindly concentrate on the term 1 work, probably following the curriculum designs. Otherwise, good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you too. You've noted your concerns. Maybe we'll improve in the next exam. So I think I'll get it back to you, Mr. Joseph Ndirangu, to maybe answer those questions. Then we go to the next session of the presentations.
Okay. The first question was about assessment, whether we consider both summative and formative. As we all know, we are getting away from what used to be the over-reliance and over-emphasis on summative evaluation. And therefore, both formative and summative evaluation are of equal importance in this era of CBC. Do not ignore the formative and concentrate on the summative. All of them are important. Keep those portfolios. keep those, keep the anecdotal evidence, keep everything that you are supposed to do in your class. It is important, very important. Another teacher has expressed concern about learners that read and they omit some words. It means they don't understand some words. My advice is this: you need to go down to the individual. You listen to them as they read so that you can make some kind of an analysis of where the issues are. Because all this boils down to the phonics. Are they able to produce all the 44 letter sounds of the English language? If they are able, then they should not stumble on any word as they read. And therefore, listen to them as they read and try to isolate the letter sounds that they have issues with. And then you'll be able to help them overcome their reading difficulties. As far as slow learners are concerned, or slow readers are concerned, they need to practice, practice, and practice. They can go over the same passage, they can go over the same list of sentences until they become fluent. The other question that has come is about summative assessment, whether learners are supposed to copy. Mute, yeah. This is not encouraged. It is not good. It is not good for summative because it's not group work. We will not encourage that. Somebody has asked about compositions. There's somewhere I was misunderstood. I did not say that you don't underline the errors in your learners' compositions. No, I was suggesting that you may not be underlining all the errors, especially for those learners who write very poor compositions, because you will end up underlining every other word and it will discourage them from writing. So it is not for every learner. Look at those who are very weak, and then you don't underline all the errors, you underline some of them that you will highlight, so that in the next, as you correct them in the next writing activity, you will highlight more errors, because it will not be possible to correct all the errors if a learner has made so many of them. There's a question here that was asked, how to mark grade 4 composition, and I will take you. I thought, I don't know whether I should answer that question, because I want to believe all of us know how to mark compositions. Read through, get the general feeling of the composition, and I want to believe at grade 4, you have gone through the CD and you know what is expected of your learner. What kind of compositions are they writing? Because you are not going to have a 300-word composition from a grade 4. It is not too much. Just look at what is covered in grade 4 and you'll see it's not much. Because if they are writing a Friday letter, how much? It may be only a paragraph or 2. And so it's just a matter of reading and getting the feel and then pointing out the mistakes. And for every writing activity, it will be focusing on a particular skill. So for you, you'll be looking at the skill that is covered under the learning activities or the learning experiences, because it is those learning experiences that have the skill and the concept that are developed by our books, Skills in English. There was a question on reading aloud, and somebody was asking that if all learners meet expectations, then what? I think if they meet all the expectations, then it means that the test item that you've given your learner does not give the optimum difficulty for your kind of learners. That is what it means. For your kind of learners, that is what it means. I'm a tennis coach, and I always believe in giving my players some, a particular move, a particular, if it's a swing, if it is racket swings, if it is strategy, if it is skill, if it is tactic, it depends on the strength of the player. I'll give them a particular exercise, a particular strategy, a particular skill, or a particular move that will give them an optimum challenge. And therefore, what you give to your learner, is it giving them some optimum challenge, or is it too simple for them? If it is too simple for them, because you know your kind of learners, that's why all of them are meeting expectations. That is my advice from this side. I think I have answered all the questions, because the other one was the other issue that was raised was about tests, and I think that goes to KPSA.
There are three more. Maybe they may be the last ones. I'm giving this chance. I can give the chance to Mr. Diu Kotege. Diu Kotege, you can unmute and then you ask your question. Diu Kotege.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Now, I'm having some learners who have got special needs. At times during our reading lessons, they are not able to read like loudly, but they can answer those comprehension questions. Now, when it comes to grading them, how do you do it?
Thank you, madam.
Hello.
Okay. Sorry. Let's go to Mr. Bramwell Mbeya. Bramwell Mbeya.
Hello.
Yes.
Are we allowed to give exceeding expectation in our composition or writings?
Again, I did not hear that.
Are we allowed to give exceeding expectation in our writings?
Okay, I'll answer that.
Okay, thank you, Bramwell. Lastly, we go to Elsie Justus. Elsie Justus. Elsie Justus, you unmute and then you speak. Elsie Justus. Kama hayuko, then we lastly go to Madam Kinanga Irene. Madam Kinanga Irene, you unmute and then you speak.
Okay, my question is, hello?
Yes, we can. Speak up, madam, we can get what you are saying.
I can hear you. Internet connection is unstable.
Seemingly, I can connection issues. Mr. Dirango, you can sum it up, and then we give the next person to do the presentation.
Hello.
Yes. I think there were two questions. One was on special needs. And I think the question was, there are some learners who cannot read. I did not understand whether it is the problem is, I don't know whether they are mute. I did not understand that, because there is some content on how to deal with SNEs in CBC. Because if somebody has a special need, then even the way we handle them ought to be a little bit different. I will try to share the content I have on SNEs. I'll see whether I have some content on SNEs, because I want to believe if they can read, and they cannot read aloud, but they can read silently, they'll be able to competently respond to written tests. Competently, they'll do so. But now you cannot gauge now their competency in reading aloud. But I think you can gauge their speed by giving them a space and a piece and see how fast they read, how fast they complete reading a particular text. But there are special guidelines on handling SNEs. I'll try to share them. Then there is a question on writing, whether you are allowed to give exceeding expectations. I think the issue is not being allowed or not being allowed, because as a teacher, you are at your discretion. You are, it is your exercise discretion, because it's you with the learner, it is you with what they have given you, what they have written. It is, you are looking at it, and you are also looking at your scoring guide or your marking scheme or whatever, or the rubrics that you are using. So it for you to say that somebody has exceeded expectations, what did you expect them to have done? So I'm looking at what you have as far as your marking scheme is concerned. That's what I'm looking at. Because if your marking scheme does not then allow you to give exceeding expectations, then you will not give. Because you are looking at what a learner has done, and is the composition they have written as described in your marking scheme exceeding, meeting, approaching, or below. So it is, I think that is at the discretion of the teacher. So unless there are more questions.
Thank you so much, Bana Joseph, for the wonderful presentation. Of course, I know questions may be endless, but we have to usher in the next person to present. Maybe I know part of the participants may want to consult you beyond just this particular training session. Maybe you can finally share your number before we take it to the next presenter of the day. So kindly share your number to the participants so that they can engage you. They can engage you after, even beyond this particular training session of today.
I'm typing my email on the chat.
Okay. Otherwise, we are so grateful for the presentation. You can as well type your number so that they'll capture everything and they'll contact you now privately and directly. Now, we are not yet done with the training session. I want to take this chance to usher in the next facilitator, Mr. Geoffrey Lijodi, who is the National Sales Marketing Manager at Moran Publishers. I told you when I was starting that KPSA works very closely with Moran Publishers. They've been our partners and we work together in this journey. So I want to introduce Mr. Lijodi to kindly take up from that point. Mr. Lijodi, please.
Thank you so much, George, for the coordination and for this workshop that we've just had. And I want to thank Mr. Ndirangu for having set aside his tight schedule to have a moment with our teachers that we have given our children to take care of them. Mr. Ndirangu, maybe you can stop sharing the screen so that I can make a small presentation. We want to appreciate Mr. Ndirangu for the insights that he has given us. You all agree that English is the mother of all the subjects. I saw some questions on my students cannot be able to interpret, cannot be able to comprehend in other learning areas. These were questions that were being asked. Therefore, if you are a teacher of English, it means you have to do your job right, so that our learners can be able to be equipped with the skills in reading and writing, listening and speaking, so that they can use the same skills to translate into the other learning areas. So Moran Publishers, we have quite a variety of books that you can use across board for teaching and also for learning and also for assessment. I would wish to share with you what we have so that we can be able to understand what we say when we say that you can use a textbook, and after you've used a textbook, then there's need also to have workbooks that you can use to measure the level of understanding of your learners. This will be able, also it will enable you as a teacher to know if you have slow learners or fast learners, as it had been raised before. And by doing that, I believe we are able to know the progress of the students. When you have the workbooks, it means the parents will also be able to trace the progress of their learners through the work that you give to these learners. Therefore, I would wish to share my screen with you so that you can be able to know the kind of materials that we have, which have been published by our facilitator of the day, Mr. Joseph Ndirangu. So I want to start my presentation. We have we've talked about reading, writing, being able to keep our learners abreast with the reading skills. And we still go back to where we started yesterday. It's important that we give our learners an opportunity to read storybooks, and quite a variety of storybooks. So from Moran Publishers, as I shared yesterday, we have quite a number of storybooks that we can share with our students. We have our integrity readers, we have our classic readers, we have our themed readers that we can give to our learners and give them an opportunity to practice reading, because storybooks can be read out of class, storybooks can be read at home, and that's how we can develop a reading culture. Our Kiswahili series is Hadithi Changamuka. Again, the series runs from grade 1 to grade 8. Our course books for CBC for grade 1, 2, and 3, the lower grades, for those who are not with us yesterday, our English series is Skills in English that runs from grade 1 to grade 6. Our mathematics course is Enjoy Mathematics that runs from grade 1 to grade 6. Our Kiswahili course is Studies of Kiswahili that runs from grade 1 to grade 6. And then our environmental course for grade 1, 2, and 3 is Our World. Our hygiene and nutrition is Living Health. Our CRE course for grade 1, 2, and 3 is Our Faith. Again, we have Skills in English Literacy that runs for grade 1, 2, and 3. Yesterday, we realized that some teachers are having challenges in teaching music and art and craft. This, we agree, all of us, that we have a number of teachers who are not musically trained. So when they only have a design and a teacher's guide, they find a challenge. And as a company, we did research in Kenya, and we realized there was need to develop a learner's activity book in music for grade 1, 2, and 3, and in art for grade 1, 2, and 3. We are the only publisher with these books. You can have access of these books in the bookshops around you. Our grade 4 approved books, before we go to grade 4, we also realized that we have challenges in Kiswahili and English. And through research again, we have developed books on sounds for grade 1, 2, and 3. So all the sound activities in the design in grade 1 are in one book, grade 2 in one book, and in grade 3 in one book. So these are books that you can use to develop sound activities around the classes where these learners are placed. And the sister book is Sauti na Mazoezi ya Kiswahili for grade 1, 2, and 3. And then we have the Bible Stories activity book for grade 1, 2, and 3. Our approved books for grade 4, again, we have Moran Science and Technology, we have Beginning Music, we have Beginning Agriculture, we have IRC Home Science, and we have gone ahead and released our Kiswahili and English for grade 4. Our grade 5 course books are there. We have 6. We have Skills in English, Enjoy Mathematics, Studies of Kiswahili, Master Science, Beginning Music, and Roots Social Studies. These are very good books that have been well written through research again with our facilitators who are teachers, and you will enjoy the content in the books. After teaching, it is important also to give extended work to our learners so that we can understand their levels of understanding, the concepts that we teach. And we have come up with the workbooks. Workbooks are very different from encyclopedias that are out there. We chose the route of the workbooks because workbooks have been written in a way that they have taken care of all the specific learning outcomes. Therefore, a teacher is able to give extended work in each and every day after teaching so that you can be able to measure the level of understanding of the learners and to make the remedial that is needed according to the abilities of the learners. So we have Breakthrough Series, Breakthrough Workbook, Grade 1, 2 volumes, Grade 2, 2 volumes, Grade 3, 2 volumes. In Grade 4, we have CBC Breakthrough Workbooks. They come in 3 volumes. Volume 1 has the languages and maths. Volume 2 has the science, home science, social studies and agriculture. And Volume 3 has the religious education, IRE, art and craft, and music. Again, in these Grade 4 workbooks, we are the only publisher who has put authentic tasks integrated in our workbooks for Grade 4. And I would wish and recommend them to you so that you can have an opportunity to give your learners an opportunity to have challenges that can make them better as you progress. This term, we have released our Grade 5 workbooks in all the learning areas. Grade 5 learning areas, we have each learning area with a workbook. And these are workbooks that have been well done. If you look at, for example, if you look at agriculture, we have given you an opportunity to have a project. We have a project in agriculture that we can share with our learners. You can decide to do that project maybe at the end of the course or in midway. In our books, we have given you an opportunity to have assessment exercises for the learners. Apart from exercises in these breakthrough workbooks, we have given you point to note, where we have points that can remind learners of what they learned. And then we also have authentic tasks. In music, we have authentic tasks. In art, we have authentic tasks in home science. And again, if you look at the home science breakthrough workbook for Grade 5, we have given you an opportunity to do more projects. We have 3 projects in home science. So you can decide to do 1 project per term. And in music, we have given you authentic tasks that our learners can do in the course of the year. And then we have done the same for art and craft again. You'll find authentic tasks that we have included. So these are books that you can use on daily learning so that you can be able to understand the levels of understanding of your learners as you progress. With that, I think I can share my phone number there. I have 2 numbers. The Airtel number is 0733 333 280. And my Safaricom number is 0722 59 11 29. I want to thank you all again for your patience and for your time, and KPSA for good work that you're doing, coordinating all the schools and giving them an opportunity to sit your exams. We know some schools will teach ahead of others, others will be behind. Therefore, at times it is very difficult, even with the national exams. It comes a time when we are doing the exams, some schools have not they have not gone through the syllabus. So I know it becomes a challenge to measure. This is not just a problem with the KPSA, but it's a national problem because some schools will be ahead of others, others will be in the middle. So when we are setting these exams, at least we try as much as possible to make them satisfactory to everyone. But it is a big challenge from where I sit because we know some schools will be ahead of others, others will be behind, and it becomes a challenge. Otherwise, I thank you for the good work that you're doing, George. And as a publisher, we'll continue partnering with you in empowering our teachers. Thank you very much. And please, teachers, take time and look at our breakthrough series. You will find the questions are very similar to the papers that you sat last term. Thank you very much, and I wish you all success.
Thank you so much, Bana Geoffrey, for the brief presentation. We've highlighted the books that are available in the market, and thank God you've also given us your number. What you've forgotten to say, tell the participants is that your Safaricom number has got always a very high appetite for M-Pesa messages. So that is.
Yeah, if they want to know my other names, I have 4 names. They can just send an M-Pesa to the Safaricom and they will see all the names.
Thank you. Otherwise, thank you so much, Mr. Lijodi. We appreciate working together with Longhorn publishers as a partner. And I believe going forward, we'll still be working together in this journey. Now, allow me to usher in Mr. Ashford Gikunda to give us the closing remarks. There were some panelists who joined us. Maybe you can also introduce them and then give us your the closing remarks, Mr. Ashford.
George?
Yes.
Okay, I hope I am audible.
Very, very audible. We can hear you.
Yeah. Asante sana. I think I am on again this evening to have to close this, I think, 8-day training session since when we started.
Yes, this is the 8th day.
Yes, last week, like George said at the beginning, we did the 5 sessions for the 844 classes, that is standard 6, 7, and 8. And we were actually doing a feedback session on the KPSA exams that we had done last term. Because KPSA believes in capacity building. So once we sell to you exams, we don't leave them at your disposal to just do the exams and maneuver the other parts. We are trying to be different from everybody else in the market, and that's why we have taken this bold step of not just selling the exams, but also facilitating these kind of equipping sessions. Allow me, Mr. George, to once again acknowledge and appreciate the facilitator for today, Mr. Joseph Dirango, who I happen to have listened to now twice. Last time it was in a training session for Moran publishers, and I remember sharing with Jody how I got something about listening from him, the whole body listening, which I am now applying with my grade 3 learners. Every time we join these equippings, we learn something new, and we are happy that this partnership is making us better teachers every day. Mr. Joseph Dirango, thank you very much for finding time to log in the call, join us in the call, and sharpen us, especially the area of phonetics. Because if you look at the CBC curriculum designs for English, they are very particular on the sounds. We used to teach that in high school, but I am finding in grade 5 designs, those sounds are there, and you have clearly and elaborately talked about how we should go about that. I also want to acknowledge Lee Jody, who was very pivotal in facilitating this session from Moran Publishers. I said in the other sessions, I am a beneficiary of Moran books. I use them and I know how useful they are. Having said that, I want to emphasize our clarion call as a KPSA, the continuous improvement. That is a Japanese principle that it talks of Kaizen Ken. And because we are in the era of value addition, and in the value addition, we always talk of extras. What are the extra things? What extra things do I get if I do KPSA exams? What are the after sale services? And these are some of our value addition, the trainings, and they will be going on even for the subsequent exams. I want to announce to the teachers who are in this meeting that coming up is the annual KPSA challenge. The annual KPSA challenge as mathematics, as science, as social studies, as those three subjects, and the questions are structured. They have no multiple choices because we need to test the speed, accuracy, spellings, mastery of the content. Sometimes when we are faced with the multiple choices, we can guess the answers and get them. But when we are faced with a situation where the choices are not provided, that is the true test that the content has been mastered. The annual challenge papers are printed once per year. That means that's why they are called annual. If you don't do them now, you'll have to wait for another 365 days. They are also printed in the KCPE colors as a way of making our learners familiarize with the KCPE. Then another good feature they have is that they are very high prediction contents. If you've been doing the KPSA challenge papers, you realize, just like they say, a fruit does not fall very far from a tree. If you are used to that, you'll have noticed that. Then they also mirror the KCPE table of specification that is used in generating the items for all the papers. The changes are 50%, and a set is the three subjects, mathematics, science, and the social studies, and it is 50% per learner. So if you are 50 students in your school, you say 50 times 50, that is the money you pay KPSA. Then your three sets are sent to you. The teacher organizes how the learners will sit for the challenge on the date that we have specified. You mark, and then you return the scores so that we can analyze. And after that, we do a KPSA challenge workshop, where we now again sharpen one another on what was expected in every question. I think I would want to stop there today so that George can wrap up and wind the close officially the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashford, for the brief closing remarks. From my end, I want to take this chance to appreciate all the facilitators for the eight days that we've been having similar trainings. Without forgetting to appreciate the facilitator of today, Mr. Joseph Ndirangu. Thank you so much for the great insights that we've gotten from your presentations. I also take this chance to appreciate the partners that have we partnered with together in making this training successful. It has not been easy. Partnering with the Examinations Hub, headed by Ashford. You guys, you've done us proud by at least making our work look easier and making schools, our member schools, appreciate the work that we do at KPSA. So thank you so much. I also have to appreciate Moran Publishers for having come on board and having been our regular partners that we work with always. Thank you for the assistance and for your input, specifically for this particular week, for the 3 sessions of this week that you heavily assisted and enabled everything to work successfully up to this end. I will also not forget to sincerely appreciate the participants, those that are attending today and those that have been attending all our sessions from the day that we began. That was Monday last week. Thank you for your selflessness and for giving your time, your energies, and using your bundles. Of course, it's not easy to be in a meeting for consecutively 3 hours and for the number of days that we've been having the meetings, because I was going through the list of participants. There are people who have been attending our meetings, not once, not twice. They've attended almost virtually all of them. So I sincerely appreciate you so much for your selfless service for the for this country. Otherwise, I also have to appreciate the leadership of KPSA at this particular point for enabling this kind of a forum to be made available for the benefit of the teachers and also for the member schools where teachers teach. As we had said earlier, these are programs that will always now be there. They'll be regular in our programs. After every KPSA examinations, it will also always be followed by analysis of the exams. After the analysis, we look at the shortcomings, the areas that needs to be strengthened a little bit. After that, we call for teacher trainings. So in the future, just get to know that we'll be having similar trainings where we kind of sharpen ourselves, we retool ourselves for effective teaching and learning processes in our schools. Otherwise, without taking much more time beyond that, I'll request one of the facilitators to close officially with a word of prayer. I'll request Madam Alice Maina. I can see you are still on the call. Madam Alice Maina, you'll unmute from your end and then you'll lead us in the final closing prayers. Madam Alice Maina, please. If not, then we can...
Hello. Okay, let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you, thanking you for this meeting. We appreciate the good work of the team. We ask you to bless them and guide them and keep on enlightening us. We give thanks and all glory to you, O Lord. Thank you very much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Madam Alice. Thank you so much, all the participants. May God bless you, even as we can now freely leave the meeting.